Hi, Joe Cerrone.
Al Rosen.
Welcome to our weekly Zoom meeting for Advanced AutoCAD for Interior Design. Today, we're going to take a look at our new assignment, modeling the conference rooms. And so in the course last semester, we drew these conference rooms. And so if I take a look at them from our exercises, there were a number of rooms. And so we have this conference room, and we have conference room 3-2, and we have a number of other conference rooms that we drew in 2D. And in chapter 14, we went through and we started modeling furniture. So if I open up some of the files from that, we modeled a table and a lamp, and then we modeled this office room furniture. And it was a really straightforward way to model things. We just use press, pull, and extrude to create these furniture shapes. And so this week, we're going to take that technique and apply it to the conference rooms. And so I'm going to switch back over to our main splash page. And we have one of the files already set for you. And so I kind of like this one right here, this 3-5. And so you can download that. And then you can open that. And so we have this conference room. And then Al has some content here that we may use for Design Center. And so you can download this one as well. I've already downloaded mine, but I need to go through and extract it. And so I'm just going to go here and extract my file.
Joe, you can also show it as on the content page too. We inserted it over there at the same time for them. They have the two different places.
That's right. And I'll show that once I get this extracted. So I'm going to extract Al's Design Center because he has a lot of 3D furniture in it. And then we'll show how to use that to model the conference room. While that's extracting, let's take a look at our assignment here. So we use these visuals to start getting students to be able to understand how to create these three-dimensional drawings from two-dimensional drawings. And so what we'll do is we'll open up the student file. We'll model the walls and the floor using extrude or press pull. And then we'll model the furniture using the same techniques from chapter 14. And then we'll also show how to add furniture in, like you can see these chairs from Al's Design Center. And then we want you to be able to display the conference rooms in paper space with a 2D and 3D viewport. We want it to look basically like this. And so if we switch over to AutoCAD and we go to our drawing, what we want to do is we want to go into model space. I'm going to turn off the grid, and I'm going to turn off the snap. And then I'm going to change to an isometric view. And this is my Design Center. And so to get into Design Center, we can go and you can go to the Insert tab, and you can type in DC for Design Center. And that'll get this started here. And then what we want to do is we want to navigate over to the file that we just downloaded. And so if I go to this PC, and then I go to, let me see if I can navigate. And so Al has a lot of these things. And so let's take a look at appliances, dishwashers, kitchens, ranges, refrigerators. And then we can take a look at miscellaneous. And so he's got a number of three-dimensional pieces of furniture. And maybe you can walk me through where I could find some chairs.
Certainly. Go to the Design Center where it says you don't have the complete, underneath the L's Design Center, you should see another Design Center set up there. You're missing it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here. We have appliances.
Right above it. That's cabinets. So the stuff didn't download that.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to it. Since we're making a video right now, we can put in some other aspects for it. But let's just take something that we can just find. So if I come in here and I go and I want to find something like a toaster, I can click on that and drag it into the video, into the drawing. And there I have my toaster. I'm just going to hit enter twice to put it in at the full scale. And then we can take a look at this in conceptual. You can see we have a toaster now. So we do have Design Center. I'm going to take a look for the furniture, but we can also model it like we were doing in the last assignment where we modeled the furniture for the room. And so if I look at that, that's right here, like that. So let's get started, okay? Let's flip over back to our drawing. And what I'm going to do is there's a hatch pattern in the wall. So I'm going to take that out. And then I'm going to go to my Home tab. And I'm going to turn on my, well, menu bar is on, which is good. I'm going to turn on my workspace for 3D. I'll go to 3D modeling. I'm going to turn on my toolbar. When you switch workspaces, you have to turn on, and I should call it the right name, the menu bar. And then I always have difficulty locating the properties and the layers. And even though they're right there right now, what I'm going to do is go to Tools, Toolbars, and I'm going to add a Layers toolbar, and I'm going to add a Properties toolbar. And by doing that, it just runs quicker for me. And so if I want to switch to a different layer, I can go and I can choose a wall layer. I'm going to just choose this a wall above layer. And then I'm going to use press pull. I'm going to hover in between the wall geometry. And then I'm going to bring that up. And we're going to make that a 10-foot ceiling. So I'm going to say, now the difficulty with making it super high is that we kind of have to navigate through it. So let's just make it, let's come back to 4 feet.
Yep.
Let's do that. We'll just do a half height wall. And then we can go and add some other elements to it. So first off, we can go through and do that. And then as we start to work with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off that layer and I'm going to make a different layer active for the furniture so that we can kind of navigate through that. And so what I'll do is I'll take this A wall above and I'll turn that off. And then we'll go and we'll select a different layer to work on, because if you work on a layer that's turned off, you won't be able to see. So I'm just going to grab this layer right here. You can certainly add a layer for furniture. And we're going to go through and we're going to start off by modeling this table. Now, as we work on these models, what I want you to do is to be able to join the geometry with a region. And so what we would do is we would type in region, because you need closed boundary shapes. And then we'll select the geometry for the table. This, I believe, is a projector, and this is an overhead projector screen. So we're going to figure that that's what that is. Once I have joined those, what I would do would be to press pull it up the thickness of the table. And so we can come in here, click on that. And then unfortunately, since I had the projector in there, it's picking up on that. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put that on a layer that's turned off. And so I'm just going to select these. Shift click to get rid of things that you want to keep. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to put that on that layer I turned off. And that way, when I press pull it, it doesn't try to cut a hole in the table. I could have extruded it now that I think about it. So let's extrude it this time. Click on it, hit enter. And then we'll go up, let's just say 1 inch. And then what we can do is we can bring that up. How high off the floor should we move the table, Al?
36 inches.
So we'll use the move gizmo. We'll click on it and we'll grab this rocket and we'll move that up 36 inches. And we'll hit escape. And then what we could do is we could, if we want to put some centering for the table on here, we can go to a top view. And then we could draw a pedestal for the table. I'm going to go into 2D wireframe. And then as I draw, what I'll do is I'll draw I think I'll just draw a box at this time. And I'm just going to place it in the table. Like that. And if we go back here, actually, I'll have to do it in 3D. Let's see if we can just draw a rectangle and just extrude it. It might be easier. So there's my pedestal for the table. I can kind of tweak this a little bit. In fact, I don't like it. I'm going to just draw a line from the midpoint because I want it to be perfect. And so we'll say midpoint to midpoint. And then we'll do the same the other way. Like that. And then I can go and if I want to, I can either do this in the top view. And what I think is happening is my dynamic UCS is grabbing the center of it. And so I'm just going to draw a circle here. And I probably could have done this better if I would have drawn the pedestal for the table before I did the extrusion. And then we'll go and take a look at what this looks like in an isometric view. So yeah, it is grabbing the top of the table and putting it there. And so I'm just going to extrude this down 36 inches. And then let's take a look at it. There we go. That looks good. Now, it's probably better to have more than one footing in the table, but I think you get the idea behind this. And so as we start to work with this, we can start to model the table, we can model the walls, and then we can model the chairs as well. And so if we come over here and we want to start to model the chair, we could then go in here to one of the chairs, and I'm going to make this layer current. And then we're going to press pull these parts as well. So I'm going to model this one on the floor, and I'm going to just say press pull. I'm going to hover and bring this up. Let's go with a bilayer color, or a color that's the same. And so we can say bilayer. And then according to this, it looks like it's got that swatch color in here. So it's on layer 0. And I'm just going to see if I can change that to a light blue. Doesn't want to do it. So I'm just going to go and override it here. And I'm going to press pull it. There we go. and we'll bring that up. Let's go with 24 inches. That's a little tall. And so as you start to work with these things, you can click on them, grab one of the grips, and then we can make that, let's go with 18, or let's go with 12. Great. And then we'll do the same thing for the bottom of the chair, where we can go and press pull that. And before I do the bottom of the chair, I think I'm going to do the sides. And so if we press pull this into a shape, and sometimes rather than press pull that, I'd be better off to join these because it'll grab this line. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to region the shape for the armrests. And so to do that, I'll click on that. As long as the lines are endpoint to endpoint, it'll model it properly. So we'll hit enter. That looks great. And we'll do the same for the other side. And so we'll go and we'll click on those. Sure, I could have copied it over, but what fun would that be? That would be too easy. And then you have to remember to get rid of your ghost geometry. And so we have that region. And so we'll bring these up. I'm just going to extrude them because that way it doesn't grab that other geometry. And then we'll take that up, let's say 4 inches. And then we'll do the same for this one. We'll do the same for the bottom of the chair. And so as we work with the bottom of the chair, again, I'm going to need to switch out of a conceptual mode to a wireframe because I want to see my geometry for that. And so as I go through and I start to work with this model, what I want to do is to region this outside shape. And so I'm going to say region. And it doesn't want to give me that last line. So I don't know if it will do it. Let's see. No, I can polyline over that. And so if I polyline over that, then C for close, now I can take that shape and then I can extrude that. And so that's just a technique that I like to use. And we'll go down. Let's go down with this 2 inches. Not quite enough. If I look at it, I want more cush in my chair. And so I can go and find, this looks like a move rocket. Let's say it is. And so I wanted the tab for the extrusion. And it doesn't seem to want to get that. So let's just undo one back and I'll just set that as a thicker. And one more time. And then we'll extrude and we'll go down 6. Okay. The bottom of the chair can be a pedestal if you like. And so depending on how far you want to take this into the modeling, we did some work with the 3-point UCS. And so if I put a 3-point UCS on the bottom of the chair, I'm now working at that component. And depending on how we want to do this, let's just say I wanted to do some simple rectangles in the corner. I was thinking about putting a pedestal in the middle, but I think it'll glitch on me. And I'm going to go into my OSNAP settings. And I'm going to turn off my 3D OSNAP at this point because I don't want it. I want to just use my 2D OSNAPs. And so I'm going to disable that. And I'll just show you what I mean by that because I really just want to grab the 2-dimensional geometry at the bottom here and then make a rectangle. And so I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to eyeball that to be about there. And then I'll copy that into the corners. And so I can say copy. So as you're working with 3D objects, essentially what we're doing is we're just moving the 2D XY plane. And then once we do that, we can start to just manipulate the object into 3D. And so we'll copy that. And I like to use 2D snaps because I'm comfortable working in the 2D world. And so there I've put 4 legs for the chair on there. And you'll notice I'm using a wireframe because I want to be able to see through the object. And then we'll make the chair height, why don't we say, if I look at this chair, about 18 inches. And so we're going to extrude these. And when you make the geometry for the legs, if you use the rectangle command, it's a closed perimeter. And so a rectangle is a polyline. And so then we'll bring these down and we'll say 18. And so that's our conference room chair. And then as we look at it, we can go through and change this over to a conceptual. I almost had it. My mouse is a little funky today. There we go. And so that's not bad. That's sort of workable. The table is higher than the chair. And so what I need to do is I need to take the table and lift that up. And so that was about 18 plus 6. And so what I'll do is I'll union it. And I'll select the components for the chair to make sure they all hold together. I'll hit enter. Now that they're one piece, when I move the chair up, I can then move this up and we'll say 18. And then I think we'll have to add another 6. Let's just take a look to see if they're even. Right, and so it's 6 inches below the floor. So you kind of have to keep an eye on the heights of it. And so we'll use the move gizmo again. We'll click on it. And then we'll grab the rocket and move that up 6. And that now should be even with the floor height. And it is. Table is a little tall, but we'll just leave it at this point where if we wanted to move the table down, we could click on it and we could just bring this down a few inches if we needed to. And so if I wanted to go and grab this and bring it down a little bit, I can go bring this down, or I can bring this up. We're going to leave it for right now. Okay, and then instead of going through and doing the same chair over and over again, we can just copy that. And so what I'll do is I'll select, and I will do this in a wireframe view, and you'll find working with CAD in a wireframe is quicker. And so I'll copy it. I'll select the chair, and we can talk a little bit about like some other commands that we can use for AutoCAD to be able to do things like add chamfers, add rounded corners, and things like that. And then I can mirror these also. And so if I wanted to mirror them, I could say mirror. Again, since the XY plane is on the floor here, I can just go and I can say mirror. And then I can select these objects. Hit enter, and then I can mirror it. I'm going to go with the center of the circle for the table. And then I'm going to set this up. If I have my polar on, I should be able to get a straight line, a tracking line. There it is. Erase source objects, no. And then if we render this out, or at least if we apply visual style like conceptual, we can start to take a look at how our conference room table is going to be. And we can do other things too, like if we wanted to take up the aspect of making the projector, where we can go through, and I'm just going to change over to a red, and then I'm going to press pull those. And so it's kind of a 2.5D type approach is the way I would consider this, where we're using press, pull, 3D move, and then we're using some of our traditional commands. And so if I bring this up, let's just say we bring this up 6 feet. We can then go and turn our wall layer back on. And then we can go through and start to add some of the other elements from Design Center. Now, I don't have a floor in here, but you're welcome to go through and go around the perimeter with a polyline and then to extrude that. If I want to go through and add some of the furniture, and before I do, it's a good idea to save it, because when you get into highly complicated geometry for the computer, we want to save it in case we have a crash. And so I'm going to put this in my 136 directory. Save it with your initials. And then if we wanted to add some things from Design Center, you can come in here. And Alan, I will check when we're offline if I wanted to go through and add some other elements here. I kind of like that fire protection. I kind of like the plants. Let's see if there's plants. People. Here's a person. You can go drop the person in here. There he is. I kind of like that. He'll be our presenter. And so we'll drop a person right here. And if you hit enter a couple of times, it'll take it by the default scale. And so there is our person. We can rotate him a little bit so that he's facing our conference room. It tried. And then as we look at some of the other things from Design Center, we want you to start to understand just the basics of modeling here. And so we have a number of different things that are in here, and we'll continue to build on these different elements. Whether there it is. This is the one we're looking for, the furniture stuff.
They're gonna get loaded before, that's why.
Thanks, Al. And so chairs, there we go. Oh, look at all the chairs. So we'll add let's add a little lounge chair in here. And so we can put a lounge chair. We'll put it right here. This will be Al's chair. Enter, enter, enter. And we can add some other increments. I'm adding one of the students, Aspari, has joined the group.
Great.
And then as we start to work with this, we can then go through and on the floor plan tab, what we want to do is we want to add a viewport. And so the way that we typically will display these is with a 2-dimensional. And what I'll do here is I'll dial in a scale. And so we can dial in, let's try, these are 1/4 inch equals a foot. Here's Martha.
Yep.
We'll bring this over. And then we'll add another viewport. And I'll bring this over like that. I'll double click outside of the viewport, and then we'll create a viewport. And so when we create viewports, we typically put them on the viewport layer. And so what we'll do is we'll say view, viewport, and we can either do these square viewports, or a lot of times I'll draw a circular shape. And so if I draw a circle in paper space, and then I draw it like this, and then I convert it to a viewport. And so if I say view, viewport object, and then we select it. And then if I double click in that, that is now a viewport and we can go through and we can change to an isometric view by saying view, 3D view, southeast isometric. And then we can just bring this down just a tweak, double click outside the viewport, and you can make them bigger. You can hit escape. We can also set the viewport properties. I can double click inside and go to view and go to visual styles and set this as a conceptual. And then double click outside. Depending on whether you want to see the viewports or if you want them on a hidden layer, I kind of like, them visible, but we can also go through and turn off the viewport layer to hide that. I will have to change the layer to a different layer because it will be the current layer is turned off, which is like drawing in a room with the lights off. So I'll go back to a layer 0. And then be sure to fill out the title block. And so as we come in here, we're going to want to put our name on it. And then our scale, we have dialed in here on this one at 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. I'm going to lock that. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to update this information to be 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. And I'll okay that. Okay, so that's how to do this exercise. And what I noticed, Dale, was that the students started to come into the classroom. And so I think I'm going to stop the recording and then we can go through student questions and then we can review the assignment.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So I'm going to stop the recording.